that was shocking to me was the doctor said that I would not live an independent life. And when he said I wouldn't live independently, I had no knowledge of what life looked like with a spinal cord injury. All I knew is that I couldn't move anything. I had nothing from below my chest. My arms were much weaker than they are now. I could barely lift my arms up at all. So all I knew is that I was lying down in a bed, and if I could never live independently.
Hey guys, Dr. Sinicropi here. We are at the Society for Brain Mapping. This is year 15. I'm really excited to be sitting down with some amazing people to talk about why they're here, you know, what their outlook on life is, and all kinds of fun stuff. And I'm really excited because we've got Christina Demirelli on the show. I actually met her last year when we went down to DC to lobby at Congress. And she has like an amazing story, and honestly, she had us all, like our group, like your story was captivating to all of us. We were just sitting around listening to your story, your passion, you know, to help people that have gone, through things like you're going through. So can you just, tell us about what happened to you? I mean, it's just really a moving story.
So I guess it's been 5.5 years now. I was at brunch with a girlfriend, and we spent the day over at Fashion Island Mall, and towards the end of the day we're getting ready to leave, and I went into the parking garage structure outside of the mall, and I went up to the third story. I think I sat up on the ledge and I lost my balance, and I fell over, landed on the concrete below on the top of my head, and I shattered my neck. Caged my C5 through C7. I broke my C1 in 3 places, which naturally fused back together. Fortunately, I don't remember any of the accident, so it doesn't bring up any mixed emotions to talk about the facts of what happened that day. Mm-hmm. But that's what I was told, and it started a long journey.
I remember, you telling me that story, and unfortunately, what happens to you and a lot of the patients, that we see, and what happens to people all over the world is they, 1 minute you're going along one way, and it just takes a millisecond, losing your balance. I just interviewed a young man who's now a motivational speaker who had a very similar thing to you. He's a bicyclist, and he did these. He was doing these like very, very difficult hills. He had done it like 20 times before. And this one day, something just went wrong, and he flipped his bike, and he had multiple, fractures, and has had to recover from that. So it really can all change. But you know what doesn't change? Your heart, your passion, and the fact that you have such, zest for life, and and want to help other people. So just taking you back to when you woke up, so to speak. I don't mean like literally. You might have been awakened but not remember any of it. But when you first woke up, what was your function like? Tell us about physical, and then obviously I want to ask you about the mental part of it, because it's really important for people to know.
Yeah, and I was awake when the accident happened, and I don't remember it, but my mom heard me on the phone when they called her to let her know there was something wrong with me, and she was so confused because she could hear me speaking, but I wasn't quite making sense with what I was saying. So they were in Idaho, and they did fly down immediately to come to the hospital. And I'm told that they had to put me into a coma so that they could perform the surgeries. And when they took me out of the coma about a week later, I had really vivid dreams the entire time I was in a coma. I had a dream that I was driving down from my parents' house in Idaho to California, which is what I had been doing just several days prior. And I had a dream that I was stuck in some sort of paintball gun facility, and that they were trying to attack me, and that I fell down the stairs. And so that was my reality while I was unconscious. And in that reality, I knew I had hurt myself and I couldn't move. So when I woke up, for some reason, I had already known that I couldn't move my body. So nobody told me that I was paralyzed, and I didn't know I was paralyzed. the piece of information that I was told that was shocking to me was the doctor said that I would not live an independent life. And when he said I wouldn't live independently, I had no knowledge of what life looked like with a spinal cord injury. All I knew is that I couldn't move anything. I had nothing from below my chest. My arms were much weaker than they are now. I could barely lift my arms up at all. So all I knew is that I was lying down in a bed, and if I could never live independently, it meant this is how I was going to be. I was going to be aging in my parents' living room on the couch, watching daytime television until I decayed. That was the immediate image I had in my mind, and that was nothing that I wanted to be a part of. So knowing that certain states allow it, I asked them what the California state regulations were for assisted suicide, to which the doctor's eyes opened up really wide, and my parents were like, no, get those words out of your mouth. That was not an option. And he kind of backtracked a little bit. He was like, no, like, you don't need to go there. Like, you're going to be okay. But for me, hearing that there was no independence, then for me it was like, what's the point? How do I move on from this, and how do I find meaning and purpose and joy and adventure in life? And those things are so important to me.
I mean, it's kind of devastating, obviously, to hear those words, but I think one of the things that is frustrating about the way you put it was there was you weren't given any semblance of hope at all. Like there was nothing. It wasn't like, hey, let's see how the next 6 months go or 12 months go. Let's look at clinical trials. Let's get every expert in the world chiming in on your case. It was just like, well, stuff happens, and this is who you're going. Do you feel like that's how it was approached?
Oh, definitely. And he wasn't the doctor that had performed the surgeries who was very invested in my case and showed emotion, throughout the surgeries that he performed. This was a surgeon that stepped in to give the news, and my surgeon was unavailable when I actually woke up. So he was very callous and cold. And I think when he was saying what living with he gave me wrong information altogether. Anyway, he said that my spinal cord was severed, and it was not severed. And it was very frustrating. I think my parents were a little more perturbed than I was. I was a little more nonchalant about it. I was like, okay, well, this is done, right?
Your part of it is, obviously we use this word like, overuse it, but like you're in a state of shock, right? So
very much.
It's almost like when you're the person that's in a state of shock, you don't know what's going on. Like, you just know it's not good. Mm-hmm. But I can imagine, I'm a parent of 2 teenage boys. I don't even know how I could do it as a parent. I'd rather be 1,000 times over my kid, that happening. I'd rather it be me, and having to deal. But yeah. So, who's the first person? And that's great. I'm glad that the doctor that did the surgery was very invested and emotional and whatever. And I'm like, I tend to be very, it's okay to be emotional with your patients, because it's like they're it's like their family. Who would you say, like, when you were in the hospital, what started to bring back your hope? Was there like a certain person? Was there like a nurse? Was there an attendant? Was whoever? Was it your parents that were like, who made you say, you know what, I want to live, I'm going to figure out a way through?
I think it was a combination. Definitely my parents. My parents are freaking rock stars, unbelievable human beings. I am so lucky to have them as my parents in my life. I love them dearly, and they were my rock through all of this. But really, everyone around me, I had really fantastic nurses. I had an OT and a PT that would come in that would brighten my days. And I remember being in the ICU and finally getting to leave and go to a neuro unit, and they transferred me pretty early in the morning. And as we were going from the basement, the dungeon it felt like, and I was going up to a higher floor, we passed by a window with a sunrise. And my dad still has the voicemail, I believe. But I called my dad and I was like, Dad, I just saw, it's gonna make me emotional, I haven't thought about that. But I was like, Dad, I saw the sunrise and it was so beautiful and I'm up and when are you guys coming? And I'm ready for you guys to get here. Like, what are we doing today? Like, I just don't think, it's greatly due to my support system that is so positive and encouraging. But I just also think it's like, I have a hard time staying down.
And I can see that. I mean, I'm just saying you're very resilient, which I think really saved you. You know, in a way, both mentally, and you got some of the physical functioning back, and are able to do a lot of things that you didn't think, that they didn't think, but you had a feeling that that you'd be back, and you know what? Kudos to your parents. That's amazing, and it is so important to have that support network around you. And for the thing that is heartbreaking for us is when we see people that are going through a real hard time and they don't have a support network. It's so hard because that, obviously having that spirit around you and all the positivity and people praying for you and all those things can make all the difference between, being in a very bad place and getting to where you are now, smiling, recalling, these conversations. And, thanks for sharing that. I know that stuff is difficult. You ended up having stem cells.
I did.
You ended up having, was that connected with the Society for Brain Mapping, or was that something how did you get connected with the stem cells?
I actually did get connection to connection. I somehow did get connected with Dr. Babick, and they connected me with Blue Horizon. I believe that is their name. And they were doing stem cells out of Slovakia and Jamaica. And I was put in contact with them through him. And I was determined to go to Slovakia and get stem cells because I had done enough of my own research to see that there was a likelihood that it could bring me back anything. And I was willing to take that chance. You have to be in it to win it. And then COVID hit. And my parents were not too keen on me going to Slovakia, but at the time they were like, well, we know Christy well enough that no doesn't normally tend to work very well. So COVID hit and we were no longer able to leave the country and go to Slovakia. And so I went back to the drawing board and I found a study through the Mayo Clinic. I believe it's Cell Top study doing stem cells.
Yes.
And I reached out, and oddly enough, I had about 3 days, I believe, before my 1-year anniversary of my injury, which is the last day that they were able to sign you on for the study.
Amazing.
And everybody worked for me. They had to get my scans. I had to get approval. I was on the phone. They were overnighting my scans to them to review. Everybody worked together, and I was able to. My parents were eager to help me stay in the States to do it, where they were more comfortable with regulations. And we bought tickets. We flew out, and we signed the day of my 1-year anniversary of my accident.
Well, that's amazing. That's a small miracle.
Small miracle.
It really is.
Big miracle,
yeah. Well, big miracle, but a lot of things had to happen. So, kudos to them. And I'm very familiar with that study. It's something I talked about in my keynote yesterday. There was also, the study out of Yale, and obviously you got benefit from it. Again, there's other things that need to be done in that field and a lot more research. But I'm so glad that those researchers are willing to do these things, because it absolutely is the future of how we're going to treat people that have spinal cord. It's going to be part of it. There's other things like rebuilding the scaffold and other things that I know you were there at the talk. So how much of the functional return that you had are they or you, however you want to say it, attributing to getting the stem cells?
It took me a long time to notice any change. And I also incorporated, after I received the stem cells, I went to Craig Hospital where I did my inpatient rehab, and I did a 6-week stint with a lot of FES with the epidural stimulation and a lot of therapy. And I did that, hit it hard for 6 weeks. And then I went home and I kept on doing my own therapies. And I didn't notice a huge difference for at least a year and a half, I'd say. And then it started to come, and I feel like it came quicker. My awareness for my body, it's hard to describe. And another thing that I think the spinal cord injury world could improve on is their testing. And it's hard because, I mean, you're familiar with the Asia test, and they poke you and all over, and can you feel it? Can you not? Can you feel it? Can you not? And the thing that's hard to quantify with that is I can, but I'm relearning these feelings. So it's not the same feeling. If you were to let me practice, that might sound like cheating, but then walk away and come back and I'll get it right. So when they went through and did the testing, sometimes it would take me a minute and they kind of wanted to rush through it a little bit, but it's like I can feel that. I just don't really know how to describe what I'm feeling, but I know when it is and I know when it isn't. So I think that I got a lot more from it than is even recorded because of the simple tests. I mean, they're not simple, but because of the specific testing that they do. But I have a lot more sensation internally, my bones, like my body awareness, a lot of strength, a lot in my core. So my numbers aren't going to show as much of an improvement as I feel like I received.
But it made a huge difference for you.
Difference, and I would recommend it.
It's a huge difference for you, and obviously you got into that trial right at the 1 year anniversary, and you know, we can't look back on anything, but the goal in the future would be that these things are available widely, and so that somebody, for example, if they come to our level 1 trauma hospital and we see patients that have maybe not exactly your story, that's everyone's story is unique, right? But that those stem cells are administered like in the acute period in conjunction with maybe light therapies and all these other things. There's these peptides. There's a lot going on simultaneously, and I'm excited. But to be honest with you, a lot of the awareness for these things, so it's much more powerful hearing it from you saying, hey, I went into the stem cell trial. If this happens to you, you should think about going to a Mayo or whoever's doing it, whoever's going to do it next, Cleveland Clinic or wherever they're going to do it, is much more powerful, than me jumping up and down saying, hey, I'm reading all these articles and it's amazing and this is the future. But hearing it from somebody that's been impacted and thinks, that it's made a significant, difference is very important. When did you realize that you were going to be able to live independently? Like when did that happen? Was it a year after your accident? Like when did you get to the point where you're just like, I can, because you live in your own apartment and you're not watching daytime. I mean, some people, unfortunately, that again, everyone, it's really a miracle, what you've been able to accomplish and come back. When did you know that like I can go out now on my own?
It's taken a lot of grit. And my parents are fantastic people. I was just raving about them. But I knew pretty soon after moving back in with them that I was not going to be living with them for eternity. That's the funny part. But realistically, in my inpatient rehab, I was able to talk to other people that were living with spinal cord injuries, and they showed me that they could do it. And I knew if they could do it, I could do it. So I would say within, a couple months, I didn't know how it was going to work for me, but I knew that if they could do it, I could do it.
Did it take you a while, like to learn? Obviously, you had some help and you had some other stuff, but was it hard at the beginning, or did you just?
No, it was very hard. One of the hardest things I've ever done, and I still rely on caregivers to help me with a bunch of my daily tasks. So, the term independent for me, it means that I am the dictator of my own life, and I make decisions for myself. I manage my own life independently, but I still am reliant on other people to help me with tasks, and I'm okay with that. It took me a long time to get there. I was in rehab for 4 months. I was with my parents for another 10 months, and then I moved out with 2 friends close to where they lived for a nice little step and ease into that world.
Okay.
And then a year after that, so within 2 years, I moved from Idaho, where my parents were, down to California to live as independently as I would consider myself living now.
I mean, that's incredible. So it was a stepwise thing. So you really fought hard. I mean, the thing that is really inspiring to me is that I'm just saying your level of independence, right? We all say whatever independent, but your level of independence and mental independence and spirit and like zest for life is better than most able, what we call able-bodied people, whatever that means. It doesn't, because ultimately we're just all trapped in these bodies anyway, and it's not like we can just like float away. So it is what it is. But I mean, so many people, they just don't realize what they have until they lose it. It doesn't. You weren't that kind of a person. Like like you're always dialed. I mean, you're dialed into life. You've got a zest for life. But really, really inspiring. So, is it an inspirational speaker is that in your sights? When are we doing this? When are we getting you on the stage?
I have said it before, and I'll say it again. I want to be as helpful and beneficial as an impact. Make as beneficial of an impact as I possibly can, and whatever way I'm destined to do that is exactly how I'm going to be open, and I'm going to continue to chase doing that. Really, it's the people around me that are the inspirational ones, because I wouldn't be able to do anything without the support and encouragement and life and just the fun that everyone brings into my life.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, just saying, like, the reason we're sitting here is because when I met you out in DC, I've been trying to get you on the podcast for a long time, but I was just so inspired by your story. But not just that, it's the way you look at it, the way you think about it, and things are going to happen to people. And whether that's a physical thing or an emotion, just finding ways to be really resilient. And your level of resilience, I mean, it's really impressive. Like, you don't even give yourself enough credit to how resilient you are, because even when I'm asking you like really difficult questions, because I know I do this. I ask people things all the time, not necessarily in the podcast, but just stuff. It's just the way you frame it. You're always framing it positive. Like you always turn it around into a positivity, and that's like a superpower. That you have, and that's something I think you should be out on a stage. I think you should write a book. I think you should do all those things. People love that stuff because they just want to know, how do they get over their own stuff? People just don't know how to do it, and some of them are just not built like that. So kind of the last thing that we need to talk about, it's great. So you've been involved now with Society for Brain Mapping. You came out with us, and it was awesome, like going out and lobbying, and it was just really an enjoyable experience. Tell us, why are you so committed to SBMT, and kind of what do you see your role in the future? Because like I told you, you're on the website, your story shared, because you're just inspiring a lot of people. Like, just tell us, like, why are you here? Like, this year, you want to, what's your thoughts on how you want to interact with the society going forward, and why should people be interested in this, in what we're doing?
That's a great question. I have such a deep appreciation and gratitude to all the support that I've had, and I feel so fortunate because of it. I've been blessed to have opportunities because that some people just can't afford. And the costs are unimaginable. And I've had so many opportunities available to me, and I know how hard it is to fight this fight. And because I've already been able to do it, I want to do everything I can to help anybody else that doesn't have to go through what I went through or can't go through what I went through. So that's what makes me really passionate, that I have this ability to be here. I've been connected with the SBMT, and they're absolutely incredible. They've opened up doors for me, and they've put me in contact with scientists and medicine, and just, I feel so fortunate to be where I am right now, and they've done so much for me that I just want to do anything that I possibly can do to make it easier for other people that are in the same situation as I am. And even being here and listening to all of the speakers and seeing all of the possibility that's in the works right now, it's remarkable, and it gives me a sense of hope that I'm able to pass on to other people. So I'm able to talk to new people, and when I'm mentoring newly injured people, I'm able to pass on this knowledge and a sense of hope that all you got to do is show up and keep fighting the fight and doing what you can do for yourself. And then somehow we got to bridge the gap so that that's enough to get to where you can, pursue life and liberty and happiness. That's all we really want.
There you go. There's your speech. Now we just
that's all we want, right?
Now we just need the big stage for you.
SBMT is the one that's bridging the gap to being able to do that. So I just feel so honored to be a part of it, and I want to keep doing what I can do to help making sure that research is getting funded and we're pushing forward to accomplish that.
Well, as physicians, scientists, we can't be more thankful to when you guys join the fight along with us, because to be honest with you, it is an uphill battle to get funding for some of these things, and people are trying to do all these cost analysis and things like that, and so it's difficult. And that's what's great about the society. But I just love the fact that they involve people like you that have been through it, that have had, that you have contacts here, your family, it's part of like the family, and I think it's great. So this has been wonderful having you on. I finally had the opportunity to sit down with you. It's a very powerful story, and I think people just need to hear more of it. And I hope to see you on the big stage one day, and we'll go from there. But so thanks for being on. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed listening to Christina's story. You can learn more, about her if you go on the Society's website, or just find her. Look her up, and if you've been injured, right, because you mentor people, if you're newly injured and you don't know where to turn to and everything seems dark, she's somebody that you probably want to reach out to. So thanks everybody for being with us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.